Welcome to Slicing Through the Noise, the space where you can learn and grow as a leader, where you will hear real stories about real leaders who have learned to lead by listening and using their integrity to make the decisions that are tough. Let's go and slice through the noise together. Mark Casey, RIS, CEO. What did it take to get there? Today, we just like to talk about your story, your leadership roles that you've held over the last 30 odd years, and what have you learned and what would you never do again? All those kind of things, those interesting things that our listeners want to know about. Experienced CEOs who have scraped their knees, shin their elbows, whatever that is, when you scrape your elbows, shin your knees, all that stuff that you learn from. And then, what do you take away with that? So I thought we could start today that what I know about you is you're a serial entrepreneur and you're a turnaround artist. You can come in and, it's an art to be able to look at a business and go, what the heck? So building, fixing, preparing businesses for sale. So you've built, led, restructured and successfully sold multiple companies. Looking back, what's the common sale-ready signals that you know when a business is ready and ripe for exit?
Yeah. So hi, Jennifer. Yeah. So I think that's a really interesting question, and I think if you really sort of want to sell a business, you have to have a plan. Yeah. So when you actually go in and it's investor-led business, then you've got to actually have a look at the business and say, okay, is this business, what is the situation now, and what do I want it to be in 3 or 5 years' time? Yeah. So, and it's all about the fundamentals, making it a good business, because a business which finally somebody else is going to buy needs to have good foundations, needs to have good management, it needs to have good processes, it needs to have a good position in the market. And so it has to be really kind of, let's say, from the outside, it has to look beautiful. Yeah. So there's a term that we kind of use, or I use with my managers, is we need to put lipstick on the pig. So what does that mean? So we need to, obviously no business is perfect,
yes.
But when people look from the outside, what they actually see is they're looking at a business and say, oh, it's beautiful. So it may be a pig, but it's got lipstick on, so it looks great. And then therefore, then we're able to get good value.
Okay. So let's step back from that a little bit. How did you learn all of that? I mean, obviously, you are in your career right now where you can look at a business and you can tell me whether it's beautiful or not. How did you learn that stuff? And where did those lessons come from over the years?
Yeah. So I had a long career, but I've only worked for 3 companies, surprisingly. And so I spent 25 years working for a big German family-owned business, which is today about 3 or 4 billion euros. And I ran multiple businesses all over the world, mainly in Asia. And then what I learned by running these bigger businesses is you get to sort of understand, or what's good.
Yes.
What good is, and that's very important. So you learn what is good and what is not good, So what does a business which is doing well, what does it look like, and how do you aspire to get there? And that's an experience when you come from a bigger business, and then if you go to a smaller business, you take that experience with you, and then you obviously have to adapt yourself. I remember when I first moved from the sort of big family, massive business to a smaller business, 20 million, from sort of 1 billion business to a $20 million business. I mean, one of those things you get shocked at, first of all, is there's no IT department. You are the IT department. There's no marketing department. You are the marketing department. So, you have to do all these things and get your hands dirty. Yeah. But what you shouldn't lose sight of is, what does a good business look like? And that's important when you've worked in a bigger business, that you actually get to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are the 2 or 3 things that you'd say has you tick a box and say, okay, I can do something with this business?
Yeah. So first of all, it's about I think the positioning in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to look at where they are positioned in the market and say, can I take this business to become the number 2 or number 1 player in this business? Yeah. So, maybe they're languishing or they're not the number 1 or number 2, but is the opportunity, is there the market there, and is there the ability to move this business to be one of the market leaders?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then does it have a good fundamentals? Yeah. Does it have good products and good services? And what do their processes look like? So many of the businesses which I've gone in and turned around is because they were a good fundamental business, but they were just being badly led.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people weren't making decisions. There was inaction. And
so talk some more about the leadership. Like when you walk into a business, how many times have you exited people because they couldn't lead the business to where you wanted it to go, or you grew someone who you knew could do it?
Yeah. So when a new CEO comes in, and I'm sure a lot of people would have experienced this, at least half the leadership team leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe 50% or more of the leadership team will leave because they obviously they have different values or different alignment. So and normally what I do is in the business I will sit, wait, watch, interact with the management team for about a month, not too long. I don't like to wait too long, and then make some tough decisions on the leadership team, and then make sure that you've got the right people in the right places.
So what are the criteria that you make around good leaders? Like, how do you know?
So I think when you talk to people, in a lot of the situations where I've been, you find people who know what to do, they know how to do it, but they haven't been allowed to do it.
Okay.
So they haven't been given the autonomy and the freedom to actually go off and actually be able to lead people. Yeah, because there's either somebody at the top who's not making decisions or holding the company back. And so therefore it's very quickly sort of get to know the people, whether or not they are capable or not. Yeah. So if they continue to talk about themselves and we can't do this because of this and this and this, probably they're not part of my leadership team. So if they're talking about what the business can do, and we've got really good people, and we just need to do this, and if we do this, this will happen. So I'm interested in people who are action orientated to actually do something. So
yeah. So when you see that languishing, how do you actually manage the conversation then? Because that's one of the hardest things. As you come in, everybody goes, "Oh, here comes a new broom."
Yeah. So obviously it's difficult conversations, but I like to quickly make up my mind who I need, who stays, who goes.
Yep.
And then obviously then just working out then who has to go, and then making sure that we have, let's say, somebody in the wings who can take over.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the worst thing to do in a company is if you come in new is not to do anything. Yeah, yes. Because then you contribute to the inaction, and the company's not moving forward.
Yeah. So tell me when you've seen that, when you've seen a new person come in and they sit too long, what happens?
Yeah. So then the company just doesn't move. Yeah. So it doesn't move on, and it stays suspended in almost in a sort of a place and in time, because everybody's talking about what you should do, but nobody's actually doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then everybody gets frustrated, and then you start getting good people who leave the company.
Yeah.
So
so you get the drop off of actually good people.
Yes, that's right. So,
rather than the people that really are giving you the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, that's right. So and that's the hardest thing, is making the tough decisions. Yeah. But the longer you take to make the tough decision to move on, then it actually costs you in the long run.
Yeah.
So then it's always best to, and these things are never easy, right? So it's never easy to to sell somebody, okay, you're not part of the future.
Yeah.
But what something I learned also very early on in my career is that it's more important the sum of the whole than just one person.
Yes.
So if you use that principle in a business, then you have to look at the business as a whole and what's good for the business rather than what's good for the individual.
That's a piece of gold for people aspiring to leadership, like constantly looking at the whole. Yeah. Because if you appease and make one person happy and not the whole, you're in much bigger trouble.
Yeah, then you get factions within the company and people, and then you're not moving forward as a company. You can't have a strategy where 3 or 4 people are going in different directions. Yeah, so and then even if some people don't like it, then they have to actually go in the same direction and think about the whole rather than the individual.
What happens when you notice that people are that it's about them and not about the whole? How do you manage that? Because that's not easy. Because there can be, obviously, my experience hanging around lots of businesses is people who do that normally are really passive aggressive.
Yeah. So, and they normally like to control things as well.
Yes.
So they're controlling something which they don't have a capability to control.
Yeah.
But it's a very difficult thing to manage, and the only way to manage it is to manage the people out.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have to make a clean break.
Yeah.
You have to make the difficult decision, and then try to then make sure that you've got enough left to actually be able to move on. And sort of keep evolving the business.
Yeah.
And bringing people from outside is also good because it's kind of renewal in the company. So they bring new ideas, new ways of doing things.
So during the global financial crisis, you restructured a company and to protect its core assets and advantages, right? What were some of the tough calls in that period that still stays? What's some of the tough calls that you made at that time that still shapes how you manage risk today?
Yeah, so...
I mean, it was a while ago.
It was a while ago, but my experience was I came in and took over a company, and we were growing very, very strongly. So we went from, I think from a 60 people to around 500 people within 2 years. Then the global financial crisis came, and with our product, we were dealing with high-rise buildings, and all construction stopped all over the world. Yeah, and so what I'd spent 2 years or over 2 years building up. Suddenly, and then I had to then say, okay, we have this massive cost. We have all these orders, but they're not progressing. We need to survive as a company. So the most important thing is what the company had, or it was a knowledge and its engineering knowledge. Yeah. So because we were a leader in our field, engineering and design was the most important thing that we needed to protect. So we made decisions. So as a leadership team and myself, we made decisions about how we protect and keep that knowledge, that we don't lose our engineering knowledge. Because if we lost our engineering knowledge and our design knowledge, we would lose our market position. So obviously there was lots of tough decisions. I remember I had to go to Dubai to the office there, which had grown the strongest and the quickest, but it also fell off the quickest, of course. And we had a company with more than 200 people, and we had to dismiss around 110 people. Ouch. Which were mainly the workers, from India, or the guests, or they were doing installation, or we called them back, and we sent them to their rooms to get their things. We paid them their severance and put them on buses and sent them back to India on a plane. Tough decision, but by doing that, we actually saved another 80 people's jobs. In the company.
It's a tough call, isn't it, that balance? By doing that, it means not everybody lost their jobs.
Yes. That's right. So it's really tough to do, but then not everybody lost their jobs, and you kept, and what we did is we kept the core.
Yeah.
So we kept the core of the people who had experience. We had the people who had the design, who had the engineering, and had the knowledge. Yeah, because the key thing was our design, and then how to actually install and do everything efficiently. So we managed to keep that. And then when we started to grow again, what we did is we prioritized those people we'd send back. So we offered those jobs to those people first to bring them back. Yeah, but it was a very tough call, and we had to close one of the factories. We closed the factory here in Australia, but we kept the engineering, and we sent.
So, what's the piece of gold that you would give to aspiring leaders as they face really big calls? Because there's things that you did that made this work, and you lived to sing another song and on another day.
Yeah. So I think that I'm very big on making decisions. Yeah. So if you overanalyze something, then and don't make a decision, you're in paralysis. Yeah. So and often when you get in these situations like a economic crisis, they move very quickly, and things are changing on very quickly in the market or in the world or whatever. Then if you just keep trying to react to every change, then you're going to get stuck.
Yeah.
So you've got to make your decision, make your strategy, and then just stick to it.
Yeah, and live and die by the decisions you make.
And you live and die by a decision. And you may make a bad decision. Yeah, I made plenty of bad decisions in my career. Yeah, so I've made lots of bad decisions, but luckily I've made more good than bad.
I remember one of my mentors from many years ago. He said to me, Jennifer, to survive in business, you just got to make more good decisions than you make bad ones.
Yeah.
Right?
So then your odds are better.
Then your odds are better, right?
Exactly.
And he said, and when you start making a series of bad decisions, you need to go and get someone to talk to you about where your head is at.
Yeah.
So I took his advice, and I went, if I have a series of bad decisions, I kind of go, what's going on with me? Yeah. So taking the helm in Australia for as a height and safety leader. So jumping into RIS Safety in 2023, what first struck you about the height and safety industry, and which early KPIs told you you could accelerate this business? You could actually do something with it.
Yeah. So I've been involved in the kind of access business for the last over 20 years, and I knew the RIS from my last company, but I didn't know the industry completely. But what I did know about the industry is it's an industry that's driven by compliance.
Okay.
Yeah? So any industry which is driven by compliance is a good business to be in. Yeah, because compliance means that the more the compliance, normally the stronger that your business is. So, and what drives our business is there's lots of things driving the business, but the dynamics of what's going on. For example, people are putting solar systems on industrial buildings. Yeah, so then they need a safe way to access and clean the solar. Yeah, and this is what we provide. So we provide the access to get to buildings. So people are being driven by this renewables or getting solar. Then it's driving our business as well. But also the laws and regulations around safety in Australia are very strong. Work cover, and they are making sure that and directors are very responsible.
Well, you're personally liable.
You're personally liable. So what a lot of people don't realize is if you have a building and somebody's on your roof and falls off, and you didn't provide a safe way to access that, then you are liable. So and that's what's driving our business. Yeah, I think that. So I looked at it first as a compliance-based business, and I also saw that it wasn't being run very customer-focused.
Okay.
So
say more about that.
So we weren't there. So sometimes in compliance businesses, what they do is they get lazy. So because they think that everything's driven by compliance. Yeah? But in the end, customers decide. Yeah, and the company had forgot to remember that the customers are actually the ones who are deciding and being flexible and being approachable. So So we changed the culture to actually try to be a customer-focused company. Listen to the customer. Yeah, we discounted. We gave better pricing because we were way out of our pricing with our competitors because we got lazy. Yeah, because we said, okay, you need it. It has to happen. So you've got to pay anything for it. But in the end, customers decide.
They're not stupid customers.
No, customers are not stupid, and they pay your they pay your wages.
They
right?
pay your wages, so be respectful.
Exactly. So yeah.
So I know that one of the things that we've discussed is one of your strategies is growth through acquisition.
Yes.
And within the first year, you bought Melbourne-based Safety Plus. How, like when you buy a business and you're bolting it into yours, what are the things that a leader needs to be conscious of when you do things like that?
Yeah. So we obviously the strategy at the very beginning was that we were too small to be attractive for eventually some other investor. So we wanted to grow organically, but also we recognized, part of the strategy was to actually to do some acquisitions in markets where we weren't strong. So we bought. So we first got the opportunity to buy a company in Victoria, and Victoria had been traditionally a very weak market for the company because Victoria is a complex market driven by unions in construction. Right. So it's a tricky market. So we were fortunate enough to buy Safety Plus. And they were positioned in what we call the retrofit market, so they weren't exposed to construction. So they were doing more of this when people put solars or want to have access on existing buildings. And we took the businesses and we basically just integrated the back end and then we let them run as they did before. So it's a separate sales force, it's a separate. They're separate customers, and it's a completely different customer group that we were not accessing. But what it did is it gave us enough, let's say, presence in the market of Victoria to make that part of the business then profitable again. Because it was, before we were struggling because we were too small. So that was the sort of strategic element of why we went to do an acquisition.
So you've moved from 100 to 150 people in counting?
I think we've got 200 and something now. Yes.
Yeah, okay, so 200 odd. So, so as RIS scales nationally into mining, energy and defence, how do you keep that entrepreneurial agility inside your growing processes and compliance needs? So you bought the business, you like businesses that are compliance driven, and now you're growing.
Yeah, and that's the tricky thing that we've been dealing with in the last 2 years. So we've grown 40% every year through acquisition and through organic growth, and what this leads to then is a very people-dependent business. Yeah, so you're very dependent on your people, and then you have to invest in them. Yeah, so you need to train them and sort of get them ready to do bigger roles. Yeah, and structure the organization to do that. So obviously, our biggest challenge is finding right people. That's a continual challenge I think every business has in Australia, because the labour market is very tight. And people don't move very often.
No. Well, they don't want to.
They don't want
it's hard for the employer and it's hard for the employee to keep moving.
Yes.
And the cost to the employer when people come in and out of your business is a minimum of 3 times their wage. So let's keep them.
That's right.
Let's grow them. Let's develop them.
Let's develop them. Let's grow them and keep them. And I think that the important thing is, another important thing which we do as a company is every quarter we have the whole company on Teams. Everybody joins and we talk about what happened in the last quarter. And they're given, we talk about what's happening in the business, what's good, what's bad. So we celebrate, people who've been with the business, for 3, 5, 10 years. And people really the team really sort of responded to that because then they feel that they're part of the journey. Yeah, so they're part of the journey, and they understand what the company's strategy is and what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So if you think about, as you've taken over the reins of this business, you've introduced a whole bunch of things that actually pulls the people together.
Yeah.
Let's give a nugget to our listeners about why is that important? Why do you do that?
Yeah, so I think that it's well known if you look at research why people stay with companies.
Yeah.
So the biggest reason people stay with companies is that they're actually aligned with the vision and the goal of the company.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the more that you can get your employees aligned with the company's visions and goals and believing in what they're doing, then they will stay, and they will contribute, and they will actually produce results because they actually enjoy being at work.
Yeah.
Because their values and the company values then become aligned.
So some of the reading that I've done over many years is that people want to feel like that what they do has meaning.
Yeah, so they want us, and also people need to understand is what's my contribution to this overall strategy.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you just go to work every day and you punch numbers in a computer, but you don't understand what's your part to play of that, of making the company successful, then you get people who kind of get disenfranchised and they don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if it's a challenge because not everybody wants to, come along on a journey.
Yes.
And we still have turnover of staff or whatever, but but we have minimal turnover, which is good.
Well, which is what you want.
Yes,
you want people to stay.
You want people to stay, and you want to invest in the people so that they that they feel that they stay longer and they feel part of the journey.
Yeah, fabulous. Let's talk about innovation at the edge. So robotics and the future of work. So you have a board role on Skyline Robotics.
Yeah.
What convinced you that autonomous window cleaning robots, weren't sci-fi, right? Yeah. But a near-term opportunity? Like it's a big we can do this.
Yeah. So obviously, there's hundreds of thousands of high-rise buildings around the world. Yeah. And the window cleaning market is something like $10 billion.
$10 billion
US. And it's something which has not been disrupted by automation. Yeah?
Really?
No. So even today, in most markets, 95% of the windows are being cleaned by hand. So they are going in a basket. You'll see them over the side of the building. They have the biggest innovation is they have a bucket and a squeegee, and then they clean the windows. So
a bucket and a squeegee, they clean the window. A broom, maybe? Maybe a broom?
No, but that's what's happened for the last 50 years.
Yes.
Right? And nobody's disrupted that market. There's been no disruption in that market. There's been, and thinking about where's the areas of disruption. Self-cleaning glass, that's, being worked on. But, you have thousands or hundreds and hundreds or thousands of buildings out there, which you can't just replace all the glass, maybe in the future. So Skyline have been researching for 4 or 5 years, and they're actually making solutions that work. So first in New York as a test market, and they're actually cleaning buildings now autonomously with 2 robots actually go on. And the advantage is they don't need to take a break. They can clean at night, because they have vision. So they and the safety aspect, of course.
Yes.
You don't have people over the side of a building at 200 meters or so. So it's still in its infancy. Now that we've expanded to some other markets like UK, Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is really interesting because of the privacy. Yeah. You can clean the building, so you don't need people looking into people's apartments. If you have a robot, it's not looking in, right? Yeah. So, and you can do it at night. So, and it's a technology which is kind of using a mature technology, which is robotics, but it's all about the software and how to adapt and manage a robot to do the same cleaning as a human does. And it's absolutely it will come. It's just a question of how fast.
How fast? How fast do you think?
So I think in the next 10 years, it will be huge.
It will be huge.
Yeah, but it's at the beginning. There's a lot of skepticism and people need to be convinced, and that's what Skyline is doing now. Cleaning lots of buildings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what do you see? Like, if there's so many pluses for it, right? You're not having people hanging off the edge of buildings.
Yeah.
You can clean at night. You can do all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see the greatest upskilling opportunities for today's technicians? Because this is all technical stuff. And so the workforce is changing.
Yeah. Without doubt that the workforce is changing and there's jobs which we have now,
yes,
which, in the future that people
Won't
won't
exist.
have a job. So like if you're a taxi driver now or an Uber driver, I think maybe in the next 5 years we'll have autonomous driving. We already have it in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that it's important that, when you're looking at a company, that you upskill your workers with that in mind. Yeah. So you have to keep on training them, and if people are loyal and good to the company, you should invest in them, and then they can move into different areas. Yeah. And you automatically can expand. Yeah. Because if you have some things which is done now by AI or robotics or whatever, yeah. But you still, if you want to grow, then you need to add people. So maybe you keep the people you have and add by using technology.
And educating them.
Yes, and educating and upskilling them.
Yeah. So if you were talking to a group of young entrepreneurial leaders, it's like, what would you tell them about this? Like, how fast do you think they should move on upskilling their workers?
I think you should always continually look at it. Yeah. So in my lifetime, I've seen, in my working life, I started and I had a computer for the first time in the 80s.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. And we used to type CD \123, and then we had a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yeah. And now our mobile phones are more powerful than 10 of those computers.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's only in a short 20 or 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah. And if we see the rate of, let's say, innovation that's happening at the moment, it's changing at an even faster speed than it's ever done before. So you have to, I think you need to go in and you need to start investing in people as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's a never-ending story.
It's never-ending story.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like people talk about, let's do this strategy and we'll go from $0 to $1 billion in 3 years. I mean, most of those things happen once in a lifetime to one person. Okay. What has you decide strategically how to grow, what to do, and when to do?
Yeah, so this is quite a complex problem in business because most business plans are like a hockey stick. They always go up, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you look at a business plan, it's saying, we're going to increase the next 3 years in a straight linear fashion.
Right.
So that never happens, right? So it never happens. And what you need to do is to, when you make the strategy, understand that it's a flexible strategy in a way. So if you're, as long as you're moving in the right direction towards your end goal, whatever your goal is, be it financial or whatever, then you can either accelerate or decelerate at any time. But it's very important to make so at the very beginning to say, what do I want for this business? What do I want? Where do I want this business to be in 4 or 5 years' time? Yeah. And then if you have that in mind and you make decisions along the way about keeping that in mind, will that actually get me there or not? Or by doing this, is it going to help me get there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about, like, you've been known like to empower teams, have them make decisions, do that kind of thing. What are the guardrails or guide rails that you put in place to ensure that, yes, they're autonomous and they don't erode safety or margin?
Yeah. So, well, I think there's kind of two questions there. So we have some very hard and fast rules in the business about the way we work and what we will do and what we won't do. I think it's more important sometimes to work out what you won't do,
yes,
rather than what you will do.
yeah.
So we have very clear rules about, we don't want anybody on the top of a building, with 2 meters from a live edge without a harness and attached, because we're a safety company. And people, if they breach this is a zero policy, we fire them. So, and the important thing is the standard that you walk past is the one that's accepted. So you have to have very hard and fast rules, and you actually have to enforce them. So it's a bit tricky, because if you make a rule and you don't enforce it, then it's not a rule.
Have you seen it happen in any business, or even this one, where you've made a rule and then someone kind of like fudges it a bit? What happens to you when people do that?
Well, so then that makes me annoyed.
That's putting it mildly, is
Yeah,
it?
that's right. Yeah, so I just don't. I don't. When it comes to safety, we have me and my CEO. We have a zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
And there's no second chances.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if something happens, and it's down to me in the end of the day. So we've got to be careful.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing, empowering people, is I think one of my sort of guiding principles is if you're a manager in a business, then you have to manage. I'm paying you to be a manager. So don't come to me and ask me to make a decision, because you're paid to make the decision. And I think this is what I tend to do is then tell people, okay, you make the decision. It's what you're paid to do. You have to make the decision, and it's fine to make a wrong decision, but just don't make the same wrong decision twice.
Yeah.
Because then you're not fit to be a manager, right? So, but I like people making wrong decisions in the business. I actually welcome it, because they learn.
Yes.
And the organization learns. And I've made lots of wrong decisions over my time in business.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I've learned by it, and then hopefully not making the same one twice.
Yeah. It's about our ability, I think, when we're leading, is from our past wrong decisions or things that we did that didn't work. Can we thin slice really quickly and go, that's a no-go zone?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's what fortunately, experience tells you when you've made lots of good decisions and lots of bad decisions, and then you know quickly which decision to make.
So, height safety regulations evolve fast. Yeah. How do you turn new standards into a commercial advantage instead of an added cost?
Yeah.
Because you could think of that in any business, right?
Yeah.
For you, it's this kind of business.
Yeah. So, I mean, we really don't sort of, what we focus on is solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we design products, and we're more of an engineering company than a product company.
Yeah.
So we're always designing new products which then, can comply and help or aid safety in for the workers when they're working on buildings. So, so I think you've got to continually understand what's happening in the market, and then you actually have to make sure that your product design process is fast enough.
Yep.
Yeah. So
staying ahead of that.
And staying ahead of the game. But you only find out what is needed in the industry when you talk to customers.
Yep.
So if you don't talk to customers and you don't understand what they want, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Okay. So I'm interested in could you share a near miss incident that reset your company's safety culture? Where someone didn't do what they were supposed to do, and the system that you implemented to prevent any repeats of that kind of event. Yeah.
So, as I say, for me and my CEO, we have a zero tolerance for safety, and I go whenever I can, I go to all the toolbox meetings of all our installers and our technicians and people who go out in the field, and I'll tell them, don't take a risk. Yeah, I'll say, don't take a risk for me. Don't take a risk for the shareholders. Don't take a risk for anybody. You're responsible for your own safety. Yeah, and we have a zero tolerance policy. Unfortunately, we had two people who somebody was on the roof, which was a 2-story roof. He was on the edge. He had a rope, and he was pulling up a bag which contained the harness, which he was supposed to have on the building, and everybody's got a camera phone nowadays, right? So somebody sent us this image.
Yes.
They say, what's happening? Yeah. So obviously we called them in, we did an investigation, and we fired them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was a material breach of our policy.
Yeah.
And I don't want people who take risks to be in my business, because I don't want to have to phone their partner and tell them, sorry, he fell off the roof because he didn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that what happens is in situations like this is then this message then gets out in the company, because they say, okay, it's a serious rule.
Yeah.
And
Don't do this.
And they actually know that this is the consequence of breaching a rule like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no if, buts, or wherefores about it.
No.
You're not going to do this.
And you don't deserve a second chance if you're standing on the live edge of a building. You're 40 meters above. It can kill you.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you fall 2 meters, you can die. So it's just not acceptable.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's tough when you make calls like that and you send a message. And as a leader, that's the message you sent to the business. Like, don't mess with this one.
But it's tougher if you have to call somebody and say your partner died.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have to look at the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you don't really want to be in that situation.
Yeah. I have a client that had to make a horrible call recently and had to go and knock on the front door.
Yeah.
And he did it himself as the CEO. Whoops.
Yeah. Sorry.
So he did it himself as the CEO, and he said it was the worst day of his life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And you don't want to do that. And obviously it's not a nice thing to have to do, but you got to live with that for the rest of your life.
Yes.
As well.
And that's, no, let's not go there.
No.
Let's not do that one. So timing and markets versus timing and the team, right? So when you sold past ventures, how did you balance market multiplies with keeping your people and customers whole at the same time?
Yeah, that's obviously the very tricky thing is when you finally when you sell your business, then you've kind of lost control in a way. Yeah. And I think it's, if you have a business and you want to sell it, it's very important to think about where you want to sell it to or how you want to sell it. Yeah. So, what I see for, what's the best exit for the company in terms of, do you go to another investment company to grow again, private equity, or do you then go to industrial company where you become part of a home? So I think, when you buy and sell businesses, you also think about when you're buying and then what you're going to do, why is it important? But also when you sell, you need to consider what's the best exit for the business, not just money. It's part of legacy. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, especially when people have built businesses over years, they want to see their legacies continued, and that the business still survives. So, and that's, you've got to find a good home if you want to sell your business.
That's a nice way of putting it, like find a good home.
Yeah, you do. You need to find a good home. Yeah. So, otherwise if you find a bad home, then it can quickly lead to a business falling,
Yeah.
And if you do look at the research, mergers and acquisitions they fail.
Yes.
Yeah, because people don't find a good home.
So there's two things that you said that I really liked. Is this business beautiful?
Yes.
Like, is it beautiful? I love that. And if it's beautiful, has it got a good home? Can we find it a good home?
Yeah, we need to find a good home. That's right.
And if we do those two things, then we've got a much higher chance. And I know in mergers and acquisitions, most of them fail.
Yes.
Which is a horrific thing, really.
Exactly. So if you consider, how many businesses are bought and sold,
and most don't survive that transition.
Yeah.
So tell us about what buyers really want. And for founders eyeing an eventual exit, which is probably one of the biggest things going on at the moment, especially in these family-owned businesses. I am one of them, right? Yeah. I'm a family-owned business. What's one metric, cultural trait, or IP what are the IP assets that make it valuable, and what are the buyers buying?
Yeah, so I think when I look at businesses and obviously you look at a business and see how well run it is, but also how dependent is it on the owner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and businesses which are too dependent on the owner who wants to retire are not really good businesses to buy.
Okay.
Yeah, because you need to make sure that there's people, because obviously these sort of medium-sized businesses, they've built them up over the last 10, 15 years, mainly by the owner themselves. And if they step away, then there is no business.
Yep.
Yeah, unless it's really run properly with a management team, and you've got some kind of succession plan in place. So I look very carefully at businesses we buy to say, okay, the owner wants to leave in a year. What happens? Who's going to take over? Who's going to run this business for us? How is it going to integrate into our process? Is it a good fit culturally? Yeah. As well. Is it a good home for them?
Yes.
Coming to us, which is the three.
Can we have a cousin or not?
That's right. So the three businesses we've bought, they all found a good home. They feel like they're in a good home with us because we're part of a bigger group.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of benefit they get being in a bigger group. But we also look, but if the owner doesn't invest in his management team, then you're not really buying anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. So
talk about some of the work that you do around investing in the leadership team and the people.
Yeah. So. Obviously, it's interesting in smaller businesses, a lot of the management team haven't had any formal trainings. Yeah, so obviously we've been using you to sort of educate the people, and doing workshops and getting on the same page. I encourage people to study if they want to, and we'll pay for part of that. It's about lifelong learning. Yeah, but somebody has to want to learn.
Yeah. So talk about, you're a lifelong learner, right? How did you know that was the thing to do? Like you haven't stopped, even though you're threatening that you're always going to retire, and you're not, because you're lying about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't think you. For me, I'm curious.
Okay.
So if you're curious, then you want to find out about things. And then I think what formal, when I did 15 or 20 years ago, I did an MBA.
Yeah.
Then it links theory to practice.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why it's interesting to study something, because then you suddenly say, now I understand why that happens. I understood it happens, and I understand this, but I didn't understand the why. Yeah. And that's part of the sort of learning.
That's education.
It's education, yes, because you have to be curious and want to understand that. So once you've learned that, you see that, and you see that there's connection between theory and practice.
Yes.
Then it sort of makes you curious to want to learn.
Yeah. Tell me about education and people leadership. I mean, I think it's probably one of the hardest things as a CEO is to notice whether or not your people can lead people.
Yeah. And not everybody can, or not everybody wants to.
Well, that's hard.
Also, it's also hard, but not. But I think that you can teach people. You can educate them, and you can give them a good background, and you can give them strategies about how to approach, how to deal with conflict, how to deal with certain things. So all these tools are very important for the middle management, because they're the ones facing these things every day.
And if they don't take them on?
If they don't take them on, if people are not willing to grow and learn, then that's when they leave the company.
Yeah.
Or they
leave your company.
Yeah, leave my company. Or they're exited. Yeah.
So let's just start wrapping this up. Yeah. What's the counsel that you would give to aspiring CEOs? And if you could give a single piece of advice to leaders taking over a mature industrial company in 2025, what would it be?
I think that if you go into a company, then you need to understand what's going on first by talking to everybody. You need to go and talk to the storeman. Yeah, so I'm a great believer of walking around the company and finding out, what's the store guy or the delivery guy or the in-store guy, what does he think about the company? Not just what the managers are telling you. Yeah, and then go and visit some customers. What are they saying about the company? Yeah, and then if you can actually get that broad understanding from all the stakeholders in a company, yeah, and then you can, formulate a strategy.
Yeah.
And then the most important thing is execution. That's the hardest thing in any business is execution, but then just make decisions and let people make decisions.
So, Mark,
Yes.
thank you very much for being on Slicing Through the Noise. And you've given us some wonderful salient pieces about what it takes as a CEO coming into a new acquisition. How do you slice through that noise? How do you go and talk to the storeman, the forklift driver, and your COO and see if they're telling the same story?
Exactly.
And growing the people.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on Slicing Through the Noise.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Slicing Through the Noise and another great guest with amazing stories. If you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button and share this episode with your friends. And get ready for our next episode with our next guest. Once again, thank you for being here.